simply lovely.
Hello and welcome back to Simply TVR. So, since the last episode, where were we? Well, the last episode, the body was off and we were just getting ready to put the body back onto the car. We're in the middle of yet another lockdown in the UK, so that's making things a little bit tricky, but things have progressed a bit more than I'd hoped since I last updated you on the previous episode. Basically the body has now come back down onto the car and it's all pretty much ready to go. So what I'm intending to do on this episode is just to run around the car, talk about each of the areas, some of the difficulties that were encountered during the putting of the body back on, and a few other bits and pieces that I'll make up as we go along. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the camera up and we're going to walk round the car, starting at the back. So basically the whole body of the car was put back down and then all of the bolts were reintroduced onto the chassis. So if you remember, there were a few bolts behind the fuel tank that secured the body down. They went in pretty well, there wasn't too many issues. The fuel tank was put back into the car, that was okay. The straps put back on, and then all of the carpets and everything were then reintroduced, so that was okay. Okay, so inside the car, I've connected up the battery now, so the doors now work again. So one of the things that was particularly difficult was the drilling through the plates into the chassis right at the very front. Okay, so a good tip that you need really is you need an angle drill rather than a conventional drill to allow you to get you the access right at the end of the footwell in order to drill through the plates. Okay, all of the handbrake went back on. If you remember, we had a different gearbox tail housing arrangement that meant that I got rid of that rail or that linkage assembly that pivoted from the back of the gearbox to the back of the bell housing to actually operate this. So that was quite straightforward to do. Basically I was able to reuse some of the bits and basically just shorten the gear stick, because it was now at a higher position, to bring it back down to the right level, and that now fits quite nicely into that hole. So that was pretty easy to do. Okay, the seats went back in, no problem at all. I had a little bit of fun with this. I think it's a 1.5mm Allen key that you need to put this door opening knob back on. Secured with, I think it's a 1.5mm Allen key from memory to put that on. It's quite fiddly because it's right around the back there and you have to feel for that. But otherwise not too bad really. I've had a little bit of a clean up in here, bit of a tidy up, but you know it's gone back together okay. So let's go to the front of the car. Let's talk about that. So engine was obviously back in. We've put everything back together again. The supercharger has been mounted back on its plate. I modified one of the pieces. There's a spacer piece on the supercharger mount which is a bit awkward to get to, so I modified that to make that much simpler installation there. We've got this new P38 Range Rover plenum. I'm not quite sure how that's going to work out because there's no throttle adjustment speed control grub screw that there is in the earlier one, so the the idle speed rather, is going to be controlled by the stepper motor. So I had to carry out some wiring changes. If we wander around, this is the new stepper motor that's just in the side here, so it comes with a different plug, and the plug arrangement for the idle position, throttle position pot, the plug slightly different for that as well, so I had to do some wiring changes on that. Otherwise it was pretty fine. This is obviously a lot larger, so I had to get a special hose. I found this company called Darkside Developments which were able to supply me with the right size elbow, and then what we've done is these throttle linkage pieces, and also the injector fuel rail here. They've all been off and they've been re-electroplated because they were all a bit sort of tatty, tired, looking a bit rusty. So they went away. I must admit, I did bottle out of taking this apart. I didn't really want to drill the rivets out of this. I think it's a Mark II Fiesta bonnet release catch. It wasn't too bad condition, so that just got cleaned up and put back with a new cable attached. So I've had all of these intercooler pipes polished. We've had the header tanks as well repolished, there and the one over there. Pretty much went together okay. One of the problems that I did have, interestingly, was that when I went to put the exhaust back together, I did try and attempt to put the original Y piece back with the catalytic converter, and I found that that was too short. It was trying to. I would have had to have pulled these manifolds in closer than this Clive Ford Y piece, which I have been running for a number of years, and I decided to go back with this Clive Ford Y piece because I just didn't want to have to put that much force on the manifolds to pull them together in order to make these clamps fit properly. So we'll have to deal with that issue when we come to MOT time a bit later on. So the radiator, we've got this Radtech radiator. I did find a few issues with that when I came to fit it, in so much as that in order for it to fit square with the body, there was quite a large gap here in order to get the right seal and to get it to fit properly. So what I did is I actually made this stainless steel plate which locates on the top of the radiator there, and then that fills that gap, so you don't have an unsightly huge wedge of foam that you can see when you open the engine bay. And what that meant was that I then had to shorten the top radiator hose, which you can see is being cut in half, and there's a joiner in there in order to make that fit properly. So what else? We changed this grill. This grill was split. I've still got to glue this edging piece, I suppose you call it, on, which I robbed from the old one. The engine's been filled with some running in oil. The supercharger's got new oil in, got antifreeze in, the power steering system's full, gearbox has got running in fluid, so is the differential, the battery's been connected up, and so far the electrics that I've tried, the lights, horn, central locking, etc., they all seem to still be functioning. I haven't put any petrol in the tank yet. That's going to be the next stage, is to go shopping for some petrol and then see if the fuel pump primes. Obviously we're going to have to let that prime a few times in order for the fuel to reach this rail and prime the injectors. One of the other things that we did in here is that we had this sort of budget hose that was provided as part of the supercharger kit, which went from the thermostat housing to this header tank. That's been replaced now. I've got now 2 silicone hoses and a stainless steel 90-degree elbow, so it looks just a lot smarter there than this convoluted blue silicone hose that I had before, which was a load of rubbish really. And I've also got this, I also upgraded the windscreen wiper motor. So I bought the some people like it, some people hate it, but I bought the more powerful wiper motor. I think it was from was it Racing Green, or what are they called now, TVR parts or whatever. So that came from there. You'll notice that the strap that holds it down and the cover, they've also been re-electroplated. That was pretty straightforward to take apart and fit those bits again. And one of the problems that I was having actually was if the windscreen wasn't completely wet, then these wipers wouldn't then return back to the home position. I had considered having the original motor rebuilt. There's a chap on the internet that does that I know a lot of people have had a lot of success there, but I decided, rightly or wrongly, to go with this this different motor, which is more powerful. Some people say that it chews these wheel boxes up and ruins those, but if the wheel box is fit for duty, then and you don't you know, create any obstruction for the wiper going backwards and forwards, then I don't see how a more powerful motor should chew those up. I can see how a more powerful motor would chew them up if it tried to drive the wiper past its end stop and therefore stalled, and then the weakest link has to break. But if you avoid that, then I don't see why it shouldn't work properly. So what else have we got to talk about? So let's go underneath the car. So got these new drop links here. They read a lot on the internet about different ones, about Nissan 200SX links, and then also using Mark III Mondeo Estate ones. I have used the Mark III Mondeo Estate ones, but the problem with them is that when you fit them, the distance between the underside of the wishbone and here is shortened by the ball joint at the top, which then means that the angle is all wrong. So what I did was I bought some rose joints and I made some spacers on my lathe so that these covers that I fitted over the top seal onto the spacers to keep all the muck out. And then I've used a stainless steel nut, and then I've used a cup which I bought from some different ball joints to then hold the rubbers from those ball joints on there, and then it's fixed in the normal way. And I think they look pretty smart actually. A lot of these are good quality ball joints. They're about £10 each, so hopefully they should last. So that's it really. So what else is exciting under here? Oh yes, the gearbox mount that I made, which you can't see, originally that fouled with the exhaust, so I had to chop the back section of that off, and then fit the original brackets on top of the new plate that I made, and then change the size of the rubber mountings that I had fitted in order to get the exhaust to fit. So that was a bit annoying because that was a lot of crawling around underneath the car. So you can see pretty much it's all you know, it doesn't look too bad. It's quite tidy under here, as you'd expect. Yeah, so I'm quite pleased with it. It's not too bad at all. So what jobs have we got left to do then? So we're going to go and buy some petrol later today and connect the laptop up, programming the potentiometer settings for the throttle position pot. Also have a little look at this stepper motor for the idle control. So we've got another little job we need to do, is I need to polish this headlight cover, take some of these scratches out. I'm going to make some covers to cover this part of the chassis. I've seen that done before, basically to keep the muck out from going down there, and we're going to do the same on the back as well. Hopefully later today we might start it up, and that, I think, is pretty much it. We've got the cover to go over the clutch master cylinder, and that's it. So thank you very much for watching.